This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter.
And this is Mike White, and you can find me at I am Mike White on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast.
The return.
The return.
I'm back.
Now, okay, first of all, welcome to the latest episode of The Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show. Each episode, you can find back episodes at ovpodcast.com and check out the blog at obsessiveviewer.com, where I just finished a reasonably extensive coverage of Indy Film Fest here in Indianapolis. So now, longtime listeners will know that Mike, they know Mike's voice. Mike, hi.
Hi, that's me.
Hey.
He's talking about me.
Yeah. So, we've got you back for how long?
Ever.
You mentioned, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you did mention, like, you have a little bit of time. For newcomers, Mike is our, guest. Wow. He's
guest.
Our host. No. You have not been downgraded. You are our co-host who, some time ago went on sabbatical.
I did.
And so now he has returned for what he claims is a few episodes, I think. I don't know if that's still the plan or not.
Yeah.
But
I feel I thought you were going to say like 15 episodes, I don't know where you were going to go with that.
What I was actually trying to go for with that, but I wasn't sure about the timing because it's been a while since you mentioned it. But in the chat, you said for 3 to 4 episodes when you have some time off, and then I was going to comment that there was clearly a typo and that you didn't mean to hyphenate the 3 and 4. So
right. I will be back
episodes.
for 34 episodes.
Yes.
No, I'm on my summer break. Obviously from high school, teaching high school, but also from my master's classes. So I had a few weeks where I wasn't in school or doing school. So it's 3. I'm sticking with 3 or 4.
Nice.
We'll see how it goes when school starts.
Well, we are glad to have you back for any amount of time.
Sure, yeah. And we don't have to. Let's not waste people's listening time with why I'm back. Let's talk about some sweet stuff.
All right. Well, first of all, as I said, that we're a weekly movie and TV podcast, and we have a topic each episode. But this episode is a special episode in which we are doing extended potpourri. For our first-time listeners, potpourri is the section of the podcast where we talk about basically anything that we've watched or anything that we've been interested in, movie or TV related. Anything we want, as long as it smells good. And so these types of episodes, we've done several in the past. They're basically an elongated potpourri section where that covers the entire episode. So we're basically just going to go round robin, talk about things that we've watched lately. We will warn you if we go into spoiler territory, but if there's any topics you don't want to hear us talk about, just check the show notes. We have timestamps for every discussion. So, and before we begin, 3 things. 1, Shocktober in Irvington 2 is happening October 16th. You can find more information at shocktoberinirvington.com if you're in the Indianapolis area. It's a local event that we're hosting at the Irving Theater in Irvington to benefit the Irvington Historical Society. More information is at shocktoberinirvington.com. We just set up the event page on Facebook, so do that. And then also subscribe to the subreddit for Obsessive Viewer at r/Obsessive Viewer, and be on the lookout for my solo side project podcast Anthology coming next week.
Nice.
Holy crap, that was a lot of words.
Now breathe.
Yes. So, that was a lot of words in like 4 minutes. Jesus. That's going to be fun listening to it at 1.6 speed later. But anyway, so Mike, since you're the prodigal son returning, why don't you get us kicked off with our extended potpourri? What do you got for us?
Shoot, man. So what I said when I came on here was there's not a whole lot I could talk about. And I want to stay fairly recent. I didn't even see a movie last week because I was on vacation in Portland with my wife and her family. So I'll talk about the show that was the Gallows.
Nice.
Because I guess it's the most relevant, and I'm using that term lightly, of the movies that I've seen recently. So I saw the Gallows, which stars Kathy Lee Gifford's daughter and a bunch of other teenagers. And I hate to cut a review short, and I hate to just be dismissive and super reductive, but it was a show. I mean, it was really like, as a fan of horror and someone who takes reviewing movies seriously and especially horror, you kind of go into a horror movie knowing what you're going to get. And if you get a really exceptional horror movie, then it's kind of a treat. You know, people talk about Babadook and It Follows, but most of the time it's kind of crappy. It's kind of B level. It's almost always B level. And so you know that going in, but I think you still expect a certain level of quality, and this didn't even hit that. The characters were annoying. It was I feel like every time a found footage movie comes out, they call it like the bottom of the barrel. They call it the last straw of the found footage genre. And I would definitely say this about the Gallows as well, but we know we're going to get another one, and we know we're going to get a worse found footage movie. So I'll hold my breath on that to say that's going to kill found footage. But just another example of found footage doing nothing for horror or nothing for movies in general. If you don't know the Gallows is it's about this high school inexplicably is putting on a play 20 years or so after the play was originally staged at this school, in which one of the characters died. The Gallows, it's about a hangman and this guy who's trying to run away, but he's about to be hung or hanged, and he is hanged at the end. But the contraption that was to spare his life, in that it is fictional and a stage show at a high school, breaks down and it kills him. So this high school is haunted by the ghost of it. It tries a little weird twist at the end. But there is so much ridiculousness shoehorned in that the whole thing feels gimmicky, and it's just terrible. More than anything, I can't get past really bad acting in horror movies. I think a lot of times bad movies and bad scripts are at least elevated to a watchable status by competent actors. This didn't even have that. This had teenagers who will probably not be in other things.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that terrible.
Wow.
So I don't know. I just hated it so much. Did either of you guys see it?
No.
No, I saw a trailer for it. Like, when was this? This was probably, crap, I can't remember what movie I saw it before, but I remember seeing a trailer, and I remember thinking that, I can't remember what the song was playing over, but it was like a cover of, was it Teenage Wasteland?
Yeah. No. Cover of, was it a Nirvana? Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Yeah. I think that
Yes.
was it. And like, I remember thinking, like, that's a pretty nice, like, mood, and looks like, I remember thinking, man, that cover of that song is, a disservice to the movie that this looks like it's gonna be.
Well, I gotta say, when I initially saw the trailer, I was like, okay, this will be a passable 2015 horror movie. A la Ouija, which I think is passable. Annabelle, which we discussed on here, that had one or two pretty effective scenes. There are bad horror movies that have a few passable scenes. Like, clearly they use the most passable scenes in the trailer, and we were all duped into thinking it was going to be something that it wasn't.
You mean Annabelle?
What's that?
Annabelle?
No.
Or are you talking about the Gallows?
Gallows, yeah.
Okay. When I saw the trailer, I didn't think much of it. I thought that it looked like it would be an interesting Netflix instant in Shocktober. But it didn't really do anything for me in terms of, anything except for the music in the trailer.
Right.
I don't even remember seeing the trailer ever.
Really?
I probably
Really?
did, but it was so off my radar. I was just like, I don't care.
I only saw it once, so I don't even think it was a big push.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would not recommend seeing the
No,
Gallows?
strong not recommend. Please don't see it.
Okay. All right.
And I also feel like it was so bad that even teenagers going to see it wouldn't like it. Right? Like
Yeah.
it's for them and
Ugh.
yeah.
It's pretty bad.
That's a shame.
Yep.
That's a shame. So, all right, that's a firm not recommend on the Gallows from Mike.
Do not see it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tiny, do you want to?
I'd love to.
Nice.
My first selection is the movie called Happy Valley. It is a documentary from last year.
Oh, nice.
It's about the whole scandal that occurred at Penn State University that revolved around the defensive coordinator Jerry Sandusky being arrested and eventually convicted of child sex abuse charges. It was a really well done documentary. It was directed and written by Amir Barlev. I don't know who. That name sounds familiar. He may have done something else that was noteworthy, but he did a good job. And it's one of those things where you kind of forget about the fact that you're watching a movie and you just kind of focus on the information and the controversy and several controversies that surrounded this event and all that. So he did a great job in that respect, and I was just really pleased with the thoroughness to which this controversy was explored. If you're unaware, a couple years ago, the defensive coordinator for Penn State University's football team was arrested and charged with child sex abuse over many years. There was someone caught him actually he was in the Penn State facilities. I think he was in the locker room and he was doing something of a sexual nature to a boy in the actual showers of their locker room. And so the controversy does not lie with, how he was treated or how the media handled it or anything. Because he was an awful man, an evil person who did evil things repeatedly and didn't seem to be very remorseful about them. The controversy surrounds how it was handled by the higher-ups at Penn State, most famously Joe Paterno. Joe Paterno is was the longtime head coach of Penn State football. He's the longest running coach ever. Like he had the most seasons. I think it was in the 40s or 50 seasons, something like that, at Penn State University. He had the most wins of any coach ever. Just a real legendary coach. And the person who caught Coach Sandusky doing those awful things reported it to Joe Paterno, and Joe Paterno reported it to the athletic director, which is all he was legally and professionally required to do. Where the controversy lies is once he reported it to the athletic director, nothing really happened. I think the assault that was witnessed happened over 10 years ago, or like a really long time ago. And he was not arrested until 2013, 2014.
Jeez.
And so, yeah, Joe Paterno essentially knew about this and
I turned a blind eye to it.
In a way, I mean, the thing that the documentary did really well is that it kind of presented the few facts that we have. There's a few facts we know. And at this point, all we can really do is just base it on our opinion. We know that Joe Paterno knew that Jerry Sandusky was a pedophile and rapist and had used campus grounds to conduct his evil things. And when he wasn't arrested for it and he wasn't properly reported to the authorities, Joe Paterno didn't do anything
right
to,
kept him on staff and everything.
Right, kept him on staff. Yeah, he didn't do anything like that. That's a fact that happened. And so the argument that most people have, including myself, is that he should have done more.
Right.
When he reported it to his athletic director, he should have, been like, okay, it's been 2 weeks. Why is he not in handcuffs right now? And he should have gone to the police or whoever and done more. And
right.
that's what most people's opinions are. And that's why Joe Paterno was eventually fired. he was.
Was he fired or did he step down?
Oh, he was fired. Yeah.
Okay.
He was fired, and they took away his wins. They took away their
That's right.
championships. They tore down his statue that they had in front of the stadium.
Right.
I mean,
I remember that.
Yeah, they tried to wipe Joe Paterno away. It's really unfortunate. Because just my opinion, I think the guy made a mistake. He should have done more, but I don't think he needed to take away the guy's wins. I think he should have been. I think he should have been fired. But I don't think you should take away his wins. I don't think you should try to change history. You know, those guys actually went out there and scored those touchdowns and won those games. Doesn't really have anything to do with Joe Paterno.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think they should have punished him so harshly. The other controversy is that the NCAA came down really, really hard on Penn State. They took away they weren't allowed to go to a bowl game for 5 seasons.
Oh wow!
They took away a bunch of their scholarships. They fined them like $50 or $60 million. They really, really screwed over Penn State. I wholeheartedly disagree with what they did to Penn State, because it was just the actions of a couple people that was the wrongdoing at this university. It wasn't the team as a whole. It wasn't the athletic department or the university itself. It was just a couple people who did a bad thing, and they really just came down too hard on them. And the documentary explores all that really well. It interviews players and family of Joe Paterno and students and people who were involved in the riots and stuff like that. And it's a really compelling documentary. I think even if you're not a sports fan, it's a pretty good watch.
And it's currently on Netflix Instant, right?
It is on Netflix Instant, yeah. It's really good. It's called Happy Valley, which Happy Valley is the nickname for the valley where Penn State College... Is it College Station? What's the name of the... Gosh, what's the town in Pennsylvania? It's College something. College Town, College Station, Pennsylvania, where Penn State University is. It's nicknamed Happy Valley.
Okay. That sounds like such a made-up thing. College Town, USA.
It's a very ironic name now, given what happened. But yeah, I just appreciated the way the documentary just kind of laid everything out and didn't have an agenda.
Nice.
There were people they interviewed who did have an agenda and were very upset about something, but I thought it was really well done.
Nice. I might have to check that out. I mean, that's a very dark subject matter, obviously, but I mean, the media attention for that. I mean, it'll be interesting to see something, take it and package it and deliver it to someone after having so much media attention at it. I'll be interested to see that. Mike, have you have any experience with watching this or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No, I hadn't even heard of it. That's awesome, though.
Yeah. All right, so that'll bring it to me for this round of extended potpourri. I mentioned last week on the episode that I went to opening night of Indy Film Fest, and Indy Film Fest for people who didn't hear last week is we podcast out of Indianapolis with Mike Skyping in from Evansville, and Indy Film Fest they've done this for 12 years now. This is the 12th year that they've done it, I think. It's a local Indianapolis Film Festival. It has basically they used to be called the Indy International Film Fest, but they have independent films from all over the world, all spread over 10 days, screenings all throughout every day for those 10 days at the Indianapolis Museum of Art, and some screenings at the IMAX downtown in Indianapolis, which is the only true 70 millimeter IMAX projector in Indiana, I believe, and also the biggest screen in the state. So anyway, Indy Film Fest, I mentioned last week that the opening film was Sleeping with Other People, and like I mentioned last week that I spoke very highly of it, and I still stand by that. It was such a great movie. Definitely see it when it comes out in a wide release in September. But I also saw a lot of other things there. I went to 5 different movie screenings, and then also a short film screening, and then also the awards night and closing night with Tiny on Saturday. So basically, for this potpourri, I'm gonna pick a couple for each round and kind of just talk about them, and then we can move on to the next person, and then I'll come back and talk more about it on my turn. So I'm gonna pick 2 movies that I saw on Friday night of Indy Film Fest. The opening night was last Thursday, or the week before, whatever. So I saw this movie called Chrysalis. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but every time I think about it in my head, for some reason I want to say Merry Chrysalis. It's so dumb. But anyway, Chrysalis is this post-apocalyptic movie about two survivors in this kind of zombie apocalypse, kind of infected 28 Days Later style apocalypse. But the kind of the twist on it on this convention is that it's set decades after it's happened. So there's like this, like, the world is basically dead and they're kind of wandering around trying to find shelter, trying to find food, all that stuff. So it's these two people and it's a man and a woman, and you don't really know until about 15, 20 minutes in that they're a couple. And the movie was just okay. I rated it. I wrote reviews. I did a full coverage of all the stuff that I saw at Indy Film Fest on ObsessiveViewer.com. You can check it out on the Indianapolis Film Events tab. But what I really appreciated about Chrysalis was the way that they demonstrated how they are a couple, because you don't know until about 15, 20 minutes in that, like, she gets her period in a very, visual way. And that's kind of our entry point. Like, that she's upset because we don't know this until she says it, but she's miscarried. She was pregnant and all that. So from there, it's kind of standard fare. It's low budget, so it's a little hard to get into. And by the end, it gets into a lot of, like, really, tropish stuff. And it telegraphs where it's going to end up, like, pretty early in the movie, and that it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. But they do stumble across another survivor who is, she's infected. She's like a carrier for it. And, I guess this could be a spoiler, but, she has a place, she knows of a place that her group is meeting up at. So the whole movie is them journeying to this place, and the whole time they're getting more frequent attacks. And it was a pretty interesting slant on the infected genre. But I mean, I rated it a 5 out of 5 or 5.5 out of 10. And it was just okay. It was pretty solid. I will say that the landscapes, the post-apocalyptic landscapes, were really, like, well done. Like, it looked like really convincing landscapes and stuff. The second movie I'm going to bring up as for this round is, just really briefly, Noah Baumbach's Mistress America, which comes out in a couple weeks here, I think. He's known for, like, he did a movie called Kicking and Screaming. Not the Will Ferrell one, but another one, an indie one. And also Frances Ha, and When We're Young, I think, or We Were Young.
Ben Stiller, When We're Young.
Yeah. Also Greenberg.
While We're Young.
While We're Young.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. So he's known for that's his repertoire, and I've really only seen Kicking and Screaming, so I didn't really know quite what to expect. But Mistress America is really interesting because it's about this girl who's kind of this timid freshman in college who is just declined from a literary society in her school, and so she meets. Or she's goaded by her mother to make friends with Greta Gerwig's character, who is this kind of free spirit 30 something girl who lives in New York City, who is going to be the main character's future sister-in-law, because her mother's about to marry her father. So that's kind of the setup for it. The first act is kind of structured in a pretty standard, like, oh, this young girl is like kind of not really she's developing a muse in Greta Gerwig's character. And so they kind of, like, it's kind of some hero worship there and all that stuff. But the middle section of the movie is so awesome. It takes a turn to where a group of characters are going to this house in Connecticut, and once they reach the house, it's seriously like mind-blowing, maybe not mind-blowing, but it's just like really pitch-perfect dialogue and just snappy delivery and really, really fast-paced. It's plays out. There are scenes that play out like it's a stage play, And it's really fascinating because it's really, really well executed because there's so many things going on in these scenes where, like, we have, like, about 6 people on screen in each grouping. There's, like, 2 or 3 people in each group that are doing, like, something completely different and independent of the others and having their own little personal conflicts with each other. And they're kind of talking, like, doing fast-paced dialogue, and it's a static shot. And all of these things are happening intermittently in like, but there's no overlap, and it's just really well timed and really impressive filmmaking and really impressive acting and screenwriting in that. It was really, really impressive. So yeah, that was good. I rated it a 7.0 out of 10. The last act is kind of goes back into kind of standard kind of drama, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Nice.
Whew.
Cool.
Mike, what do you want to go next?
Yeah. I thought you were going to ask me to weigh in, and I was going to say,
Oh, no. Have you seen While We're Young or anything like that?
No, I haven't. I know that we tried to see it while it was in theaters a while ago, but we missed it.
Okay, because I know that I didn't realize that Noah Baumbach had all of these titles in his filmography, and I really only know him from Kicking and Screaming. I own it. I think it's a little just okay. I haven't revisited anything, but I think this Mistress America is kind of going to go through his past work and kind of see how I feel about it, because I was really quite impressed with it.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. So what do you got for us?
Yeah, I'll go next. I don't want to like step on your toes if you have any ideas, but can we talk about the Scream TV show?
Please, can we? Yes.
Yeah, let's do it. You're an episode ahead of me, right?
I believe so. Yes,
you watched last week's episode.
Yes.
Man, oh jeez, I really want to like it. I'm trying, and I don't know why, and I'll probably continue to like it, but. Man, it's missing a lot. And my initial feelings that I might be too old for it have been absolutely confirmed.
Really? All the hashtags and the trending topics and the podcasts and
yeah, all that stuff, exactly. No, just the way they talk and the things that are important to high schoolers. Mm-hmm. It is one of the I like about the Scream movies, and maybe it's because I saw them at the right time. In fact, it's probably because I saw them at the right time. But not only was it funny, and not only was it a commentary, it was also scary, or at least it felt scary. I mean, it wasn't like keep you up at night, terrifying, but they were scary movies. The show is not nearly scary enough. What did the guy say in the first episode about? Just dragging it out into a series. It's not doing it successfully. One scary scene a week is not enough. And how much can we spoil? How much do you want to spoil?
I don't know. Don't go into specifics.
I'll say this. An important character another important character died in episode 3 at the end of episode 3. And I feel like they spent the episode garnering sympathy for that character, but not the previous 2. And maybe we'll have more sympathy for some of them later on as they start to be the extensive cast is whittled away. Mm-hmm. But at this time, they're all just such interchangeable, pretty people that it's just not. I don't care about any of them specifically. In fact, especially the 2 dudes who have some nefarious internet business that nobody on the internet has any idea what it is or cares at all about it. God, they're awful. They're at this point, if they're the killers, a Scream 1. I'm not sure if I'll love it because I'm so off their trail, or I'll hate it because it's so fucking obvious and stupid.
Wow.
Have you been reading any of my reviews that I've been posting?
I read the first one and then I stopped.
Okay, understandable. But Something interesting happened to me. I'll walk you through. I've written 3 reviews. I'm still really bad about keeping up with the reviews. The next episode at the time of this recording airs tomorrow, so I'm going to basically, when we're done recording, I'm going to rewatch the episode, take some notes, and then spend tomorrow at work writing up the review and posting it when I get home from work. So I had an interesting experience. If you don't mind me going, do you have anything more to say about
No,
this?
please.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather discuss than wax. So
the first episode didn't really do much for me. I kind of thought like, okay, it's really getting on my nerve. It was really getting on my nerves whenever they tried to do something that would make a nod to the movies, like little things, like when the first murdered girl, when her mom comes home, if you notice, like, the mom screams and she does like the thing with her hands that's like mimicking exactly what Drew Barrymore's mother did when she was clutching the phone when she saw Casey hanging from the tree in the first one. And like they tried to shoehorn in the Randy character, and it was kind of like the pop culture references were just really, really out of really felt forced and really awkward. But then the second episode happened, and I throughout the entire episode, I was like, why the did I say I would review every episode? I don't even know if I even want to watch this show anymore. Like, I seriously hated every second of it because they were throwing in so many stupid buzzwords. Like, it was like the way I imagine it is, and I'm sure that this isn't the case. I hope that this isn't the case, but I imagine that the writing staff of Scream is a bunch of like 30 to 40-year-old people who Googled or joined Twitter or something and kind of made a list of buzzwords that they want to throw into the episode. And it was just all at once. It was like, oh, did you see this GIF? Who can resist a murder selfie? Have you heard about this podcast that's called Serial? Oh wait, no, it's not called Serial. They didn't actually say that, but it's basically Serial, and it's like the most like I went on like a rant on Facebook saying like, okay, I appreciate I love podcasts, I love podcasting, I love everything about it, and I really, really, really love what Serial being a breakout hit did for podcasting in general. But that does not mean that every single reference to podcasting in pop culture needs to be a reference to Serial, because that is not representative of what podcasting is. So, right. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but the episode itself, I didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't care about any of the characters or anything like that. Then episode 3,
I feel like remember you said then episode 3. Hold on a second.
Okay.
I feel like they I want to ask a teenager what he or she thinks of the show. Like, you know, I feel like the first Scream, Kevin Williamson had a grasp on the way teenagers of the day sounded. Am I wrong?
I think you're right.
Enough. Yeah. I mean, how they would sound in a horror movie.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Well, I may be biased because I'm also kind of including Dawson's Creek in this a little bit, which Dawson's Creek just was not representative of how teenagers talk.
You're right.
But Scream was kind of in the same ilk of that, but it was a lot more toned down, and it was a lot more, you know. That was one thing that struck me about the first episode of Scream is that the characters have, like, their classmate has died. A member of their clique has died. And if you remember in the first movie, there's that scene by the fountain, that really well done scene where like they're kind of joking around about it, saying like kind of like, oh, I think you killed her, and like, did you leave her liver in the mailbox? Because I heard they found her. Yeah. Exactly, next to her spleen and her pancreas. So like that's a nice bit of levity in the first movie, but it's still kind of like you can tell they're all unsettled by what's happened. There's a scene in the first episode that made me think that I can't even remember the guy's name. Jake. I think the guy's name is Jake. The one of the two guys that are, you know, colluding with whatever the hell they're doing. He's like there's a brief I think Riley says I can't believe she's just a body now. And then Jake is just like, well, she was always just a body. I was like, dude.
Yeah.
I hope this guy gets killed so hard.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was kind of how I felt about the whole episode and the whole cast there. But anyway, in episode 3, I kind of had this bit of insanity seep in where I was like, could I like this show? Because I'm kind of enjoying this. Like, there was a nice bit of
Episode 3, you said?
Yeah.
Where the one I mentioned with the important character death.
Exactly. Which I thought that was a pretty enjoyable execution of a sequence of events, because it kind of seems like they're building toward the final girl of the show is Emma.
She's terrible. She's terrible.
Oh, she's terrible. Every actor in the show is terrible. Everyone. The Randy character is kind of getting on my side. I'm kind of pulling for him.
He's the least offensive.
Yeah.
If I have to pick one.
Yeah, but if you divorce yourself from judging the acting talent or anything like that, and you just kind of see where they're and you kind of look at how they're going, like the sequence of events in that third episode that led to that character's death, the way that this is like the third character of this series that's been killed off, and each one has kind of come with this bit of responsibility laid at the feet of the final girl of Emma. And I kind of appreciate what they're trying to do with that, even if they're not really successfully doing that all that well.
Right.
So I can to play devil's advocate, I think that's pretty okay. The fourth episode, I won't spoil anything, but I feel like you could probably skip the episode and then watch the previouslys the next week, because not much happened. And it was like, I mean, like you said, there's not enough scares. It's not a sustained scare. And like in the first episode, the Randy character is like, you build them up and you get to know these characters, and then so that when they get killed, it hurts. And that one death in episode 3 hurt a little bit, because I was as emotionally invested in any of these characters I will be. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a victim of Stockholm syndrome with that.
You mentioned that it wasn't scary at all, and that's exactly right. But what the show needs is compelling, soapy teen drama, and I don't think it has it at all.
No.
And that's what I want to ask one of my students. That's what I want to ask a teenager: is it interesting?
The most teen drama that there is the character of Will and Emma, their relationship. Which, like, okay, the dude banged another girl, like they broke up, that's fine and everything, but what is the point of, and this is slight spoilers, but who the hell cares? It's Scream. So the whole plot line with Will and I believe the guy's name is Jake, their little side thing that they're doing is that they have videos, blackmail videos of presumably of their classmates, like in various states of undress. And they're making money.
I think, yeah, exactly. I don't know if it's all the classmates or just the girl who died in the
first episode,
in the opener.
They kind of, they expanded a little more in episode 4.
Okay,
but basically what they're doing, oh my god, episode 4 has such a horrible way to end. It's so dumb. You'll probably quit the show. But yeah, anyway, so they have multiple things like of ways of getting of blackmail on people. So basically what they're doing is they're trying to get us emotionally invested in the main character's relationship with Will and how he's trying to redeem himself, which you know that by the end of the season he's going to sacrifice himself to the killer to save her and whatever, and that'll get him killed or whatever. That's probably what's going to happen. They're telegraphing it so hard. But so basically what they're doing, though, is they're trying to get us emotionally invested in this relationship while also having him do this really shady thing that, I mean, technically, depending on the ages, he's basically, could technically legally be peddling child pornography.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't really root for this guy. So, I don't know. So that's Scream, the TV show. I'm writing reviews on the website for it, and I will say that it's a lot of fun to write trash reviews of it and deconstruct what all I have problems with. But Yeah, I would be very interested to hear your thoughts on episode 4 when you watch it, Mike.
I can't wait. You sold it hard.
Oh God, like that ending is like the most like there's a little piece of it that's kind of interesting, kind of cool. And like one of the first times in the entire show so far that that it felt like something that would happen in a Scream movie in terms of the pop cultural references and stuff. But the way that it ends is such a like, oh oops, it's so lame. It's so lame. But yeah.
Ugh.
Tiny, I know you're getting kind of antsy to talk.
No, I'm good.
Because you haven't watched any of Scream, have you?
I have not. I don't plan to either.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, just
you're
not.
not
I mean,
a 14-year-old girl.
Well, I mean, we talked about Scream so many times. I like the show or the movie,
movies.
the first one. All the other ones. The second one's kind of fun. But yeah, I'm just not as into them. But, I really like the first one though.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Anyways,
Mike, do you have anything more to say about Scream?
No.
Okay. Tiny.
Up next for me, I have only movies.
That's fine.
The next one for me is Ex Machina. This was written and directed by Alex Garland. It looked like a really cool and a very kind of groundbreaking maybe a genre defining example of a sci-fi movie about artificial intelligence. Maybe like deeply philosophical, and it looked like a really good movie, and I was ultimately really disappointed with it.
You mentioned
Oh
that.
no! It's my current movie of the year.
Wow.
I really wish I would have watched it now because I meant to watch it last night, but I didn't have a chance to. So
I wasn't I wasn't really disappointed with it. I was just disappointed. I just didn't. I didn't think it was very revolutionary. It was lacking quite a bit of depth, in my opinion. It was. Maybe part of the problem is my own expectations of it. It was a very plot driven film, and I thought it was going to be more of a more morally driven show or movie, or like a philosophically driven film. But it was pretty much a plot thing.
You were expecting more subtext?
More subtext, yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it just
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was full of it. I loved it.
See, I really didn't pick up on that. There's plenty of good things to say about it, though. I really appreciated the performances, most notably from Alicia Vikander. She's the Swedish woman who played the artificial intelligence, the cyborg or the robot, whatever you want to call it. And I've always been a fan of Oscar Isaac. I've always liked what he does. His character was kind of not what I was expecting, a little out of place, but I think it was all kind of part of the character, part of the act. And then Domhnall Gleeson was fantastic. I haven't seen him in a lot. He was featured very sparsely in the Harry Potter movies. He was one of the Weasleys.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't remember his first name, the character. But I just haven't seen him in much. But I really appreciated what he did with this. He kind of had an everyman feel to him at the beginning, and he ends up being much more than he appears to be, I guess. Not much more, but he kind of has an interesting turn throughout the movie. And I thought the camera work was great. Alex Garland shot it really well. I think my issues were with the script and just the direction that the movie went. And again, this is all opinion. I mean, I'm sure there's other people who saw it who really liked it, but I just thought it was. I didn't. If there was subtext or the depth to it, I didn't pick up on it.
Did he write the movie as well?
Yeah, he wrote and directed it. Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm really surprised. Usually we're defending ourselves against Matt, Tiny. We often see eye to eye, often on especially sci-fi flicks.
Snowpiercer, Interstellar.
And what's that?
Just saying Snowpiercer, Interstellar.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it's also widely celebrated. You know what I mean? Like people like this movie.
Is it really?
I'm shocked.
Okay.
Yeah, it's getting really good reviews. I've been kind of staying away from it because I still haven't seen it, and I'll watch it before next week. So yeah.
Okay.
But Mike, what did you think
Time magazine is calling it in the top 10 best of 2015 so far.
Wow, I had no idea. I had no idea. What? How'd you feel about it, Mike?
I'm surprised. I loved it. What's that?
I'm just curious how you felt about it. What your opinions were of it.
Well, I can't give as thorough a review as you did. I saw it when it first came out, which was back in April. So it has been a while, and also in your defense, it probably has been inflated a little bit in my head. But I really liked the subtext. No, I think I agree that it's I mean, it is a thriller, so I think stakes are high enough that we must call it a plot-driven movie, so I'll agree with you there. However, I think what I liked so much about it is kind of the duplicity of the robot character. You know, and the duplicity of Oscar Isaac's character, and you don't know what is what. And so while I think it makes subtle, and I guess if I'm on your side, not overly successful claims about artificial intelligence, I think what it does extremely well is play with our perceptions of characters. And so while we're sitting here debating is it good, are artificial intelligence beings good or bad, we're still not sure about certain humans being good or bad. And I think that's what the movie plays with. And also, like you said, the performances. I love Domhnall Gleeson. Oscar Isaac is becoming one of my favorites. The robot character's name, I wish I could remember her name, but I can't. I thought they were all fantastic. It was very unsettling initially, and it kind of keeps that up throughout the movie. I can't wait to see it again.
Cool. I'm probably gonna need to. I'm probably gonna need to see it again. I don't know. I thought the all of the I guess the direction that things were going, I pretty much saw it all coming. Really, I mean, it was. I thought it was really predictable in that respect. I think all of the characters had ulterior motives, and they were pretty plain, pretty predictable. And I was like, yeah, I wasn't surprised by hardly anything that happened. And I don't know. I think that's why I was a little disappointed. I was hoping for something revolutionary, or I don't think I quite got that from it.
Interesting.
Gotcha. Well, as we like to say on this podcast, well, that's like your opinion, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I just wanted it to. I wanted it to be like a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. But I mean,
like as good as Interstellar was.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 6 probably.
You know,
just initially.
Cool. I put this in the pod chat too. Like, I've recently been kind of going through, because since I've been firing off all these reviews from Indie Film Fest, I've been kind of reading more like reviews of critics online and everything, just of movies, just to read reviews and everything. Well, one of my go-to like movie reviews, like go-to reviews to judge a person's work in terms of both podcasting and written reviews, is to see what they thought of Interstellar. And I put this in the pod chat, but I found Matt Zoller sites on RogerEbert.com. His review of Interstellar,
who I dislike vehemently.
Do you really?
I do not. Yeah. Well,
interesting.
As you know, I frequent Roger Ebert's website. I mean, that's my go-to for movie reviews.
Who's your favorite?
Because I loved Roger. What's that?
Who's your favorite reviewer on the site?
It's hard to say now because I went for Roger Ebert.
Right.
And I think I will say this: like the first 2 movie reviews I read after he died were Matt Zoller sites, and so. I think that was kind of a big problem for me early on, was that like it didn't live up to Roger Ebert. You know what I mean? He had that going against him, so that kind of sucked.
Did you read?
I don't know.
Interstellar.
What's that?
Did you read his review of Interstellar? Because it was like, I completely disagree with everything that he said in it. But he just had such a beautiful way of expressing his opinion on it that I was like, this is really beautifully written. Maybe not like it's not Ebert, but I thought that it was. I really appreciated the way that his prose.
Right.
I guess.
I mean, I liked it. I read it when it came out, but I didn't read it then. It's hard to say who my favorite is because I just read the ones I'm interested in. Simon Abrams writes a lot of the horror ones.
Okay.
So he's the one that comes to mind, but as far as favorites, I don't know. I know that I miss Roger.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah, I read some of his
for sure.
Yeah, I read some of his older ones too. Like I've read his review for Serial Mom, and I didn't want I was going to, or I intend to read his review of Little Giants, but he gave it 1 star, so I'm a little nervous about that. But anyway, so that's a tangent. I'm looking forward to seeing Ex Machina. Go, sorry.
Yeah, please do. And that's sorry. Before we move on to your segment, man, I want to before we leave Ex Machina completely. I love doing lists. That was my last episode was the list, and so right. I don't want to do that obviously, but I think it's way more fun to do like top movies halfway through the year before all the Oscar bait movies come in. You know what I mean? And
totally.
In the really highly touted, just kind of the movies like The Theory of Everything that came in at the last minute that ultimately won't be remembered at all.
I think I made that my top movie, and
yeah, you did. Like in the 11th hour, it was like 1 or 2 or 3, right?
Right, but then again, I struggle with lists anyway. But I do see
right.
That
Exactly.
That final push for award season it does color your opinion of the movie year overall.
Exactly. And I'm just worried that some Theory of Everything type unsung movies are going to come along and push movies like Mad Max out of people's top 10. You know what I mean? Because it came out, in March or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, that is a top 10 movie of the year. And we're going to forget it because some weird going to come out later on.
I don't think Mad Max. I mean, I know that's just an example, but I think that Mad Max is going to stick around on people's lists because that got so much.
Yeah, I think so too.
I
think so too.
Yeah, but I do see your point. Yeah, definitely. And I didn't get around to seeing Mad Max, and I feel so.
Me either.
Yeah, I'm so pissed about that because I subscribe to a lot
Neither
of podcasts.
Of you did?
Nope.
No.
Nope. And
shoot, boys.
Yeah. Yep. And I subscribe to a lot of podcasts, and I keep them categorized by like their topics. So like I subscribe to a lot of movie podcasts, and on my playlist for just Mad Max Fury Road episodes, I have 7 episodes of different podcasts, and I can't listen to them because I haven't seen the movie. But yeah, so I don't know. So Tiny, you said that Ex Machina is a 6 out of 10 for you?
Yeah, probably about a 6.
Yeah.
Pending a rewatch, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I was just in a bad mood, or I don't know. Maybe the setting was just off and I need to see it again.
Yeah.
But if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm the guy who didn't like Interstellar, so I totally appreciate your opinion. Do you guys mind if I go next?
Please.
Do it.
All right. Well, for this segment of the of my extended potpourri segment, there was one of the big draws for Indie Film Fest is that they have a lot of short films from filmmakers from everywhere. And so there was a lot of different like blocks of short films. Like they had one called Desperately Seeking Laughs that's all comedy, animation, an animation block. They had one about called Libido Lessons that's all I guess about sex, and so they had a bunch of different ones, and the only one I should mention that there was one called Portrait of an Artist, I think. Portrait of an Artist, and that had like 3 documentaries in the block, and one of which was directed by Kurt Nettleton, who directed Intruder, who's part of the Billy and Brandon Watch Movies guys. Intruder is the short film that we screened at last year's Shocktober in Irvington. I didn't get a chance to see his short film. It was about this guy that carved a catfish out of wood, I think, something like that. But yeah, I got a chance to talk to him at Film Fest, and it was really cool. But that's on his Vimeo page, though. I'll link it to in the show notes and all that. But anyway, the one block of short films that I did get a chance to see was the Hoosier Reels shorts, which those are a collection of 6 short films that had some kind of tie to Indiana. Either they were the filmmakers were from Indiana, they were set in Indiana, they were dreamed or created in Indiana, anything like that. They had some kind of tie to Indiana. And there were 6 short films in this block, and there was an interesting mix. I'll just go briefly. I'll just bring up each one, just really quickly. The first one was called Sweet Talk. It was about I think it was based on a Joyce Carol Oates short story called Where Are You Going, or Where Have You Been, Where Are You Going, which itself was based on a multiple murder in Arizona, and like I don't know when, but anyway, so it was kind of this kind of disturbing short film where this guy kind of goes up to this girl's house and sees this girl, and he's trying to sweet talk her into going on a ride with him in his car, and the only thing that's separating them is a screen door. So it's kind of this kind of moody, kind of tension building kind of thing where eventually he's trying to talk sweet to her and everything like that, and then she's kind of has this naive curiosity, but she's not sure how he's, like, if he's a threat or if he's just gonna have fun, or he's someone to have fun with or whatever. So, but then there's a turn like midway through. It's like an 11-minute short film that he becomes clear that he's not. He's a threat. So, though I really appreciate the way that the filmmaker kind of used close-ups. Like, there was a very disturbing close-up that really made the audience uneasy, and it was really, it was effective. I rated it 7 out of 10, and it was pretty good. The second short film was my favorite short film of this block, and it was it's called What's Eating Dad, and what it is, it was about a girl who is nervous about meeting her boyfriend's parents for the first time. And so she's in this apartment with her boyfriend, and she's cooking dinner and everything, and then the parents come to the house or the apartment, and then I won't give away what it is and it's not available online yet, but if it is available online at some point, I actually sent them a message on Facebook asking if we can screen the short film at Shocktober in Irvington too, because I loved it so much. It has this horror element to it where it involves zombies, but it does what every like zombie story does well. It uses that as a way to bring forth the subtext of like what the short is about the power of denial and how to function in a relationship when you meet someone, when you realize that a loved one has a shortcoming or a flaw or anything like that. It was just something that was demonstrated really, really well, and I really, really appreciated it, and I really loved it. It ends on such a nice little poignant like moment, and it's absurd because there's this threat of a zombie in the room it's really powerful. It was surprisingly powerful. I rated it 9 out of 10. It was really good. Yeah. And then really quickly, the Thin Brothers visit room 213. Oh boy. This was not that good. Unfortunately, it was like this. Okay, you guys know how there's that common like trope. I don't know. I never knew that these films kind of existed, but like that common trope of like a college film student who's making a really like art house black and white movie where nothing makes any sense whatsoever, and it's really like pretentious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what this was like for 3/4 of it. It was so weird. It was like a black and white shot where these two brothers who don't speak and are dressed really weird and really like just like don't emote anything. They receive a text message saying like room 213 bologna sandwich, and then it goes through this really long drawn out thing where they go to presumably their a hideout or their apartment or something, and it literally like they just make bologna sandwiches, sit down and eat them, and then it goes to the next scene. It's like it was this really long drawn out thing. It kind of reminded me of
I feel like you just played that game where we say a movie title and then we write the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, you can edit this out if you want, but we should do that next week.
Oh,
if you didn't have something else planned.
I didn't have anything else planned. That is something that we'll have to do.
Yeah.
Those are a blast.
Oh, absolutely.
Totes.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, so there's a turn in this, and okay, when they're eating these sandwiches, all I thought was, like, in that moment, Mike, specifically, you remember how you hated 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Yeah, didn't like it.
Yeah, and you know how there were, like, scenes where, the very, very drawn-out scenes where, like, I remembered specifically, like, there's a scene where they're eating sandwiches before they go to the moon, or go to the moon base where they found the monolith. Mm-hmm. And also, like, the scene where, at the end of the movie where Dave sees himself eating and stuff like that. Like, those scenes that are really long, drawn-out art fair stuff like that.
Right.
It felt like this was emulating that in a very negative way. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I was like, oh my God, I can't bear it. But anyway, there's a turn in it that I can kind of appreciate it, where it turns out that they're hitmen and they're about to go do a job, and it doesn't make really any sense by the end of it. I didn't like it. I rated it 4.5 out of 10, but apparently, judging from the Q&A after the movie, or after the screening, they said that, or they weren't there, but someone asked a question about it, and one of the other filmmakers said that these filmmakers were using that as kind of a jumping off point for a feature-length film starring these two brothers, and I was like, hard pass. I wasn't a fan of it. Yeah, so I'm sorry to be so long-winded about this, but there's 3 more. I'll go really quickly, like I said last time. Dog Bowl was awesome. It was about this woman that lives in kind of really just, looks like she's clinically depressed. She doesn't have an emotional connection to anyone. The person she has the most emotional connection to is her dog, and she's very weird, and she lives in squalor and filth and all that stuff. It's a really kind of bleak depiction of someone who just doesn't care or can't force a connection. So anyway, so the whole story is that she finds, or she steals this lady's the service dog's vest, and that takes her on, leads her onto a journey of self-discovery that's really surprising. It takes a really weird turn at the end, but it's a really nice rumination on what it means to struggle to find human connection and to find yourself. It was really well done. I rated it 8 out of 10. The last 2, One-Minded was fun. It was a South Korean movie, actually. The filmmaker is from Indiana, but he goes to school in South Korea, and he filmed this short film where it starts with this guy walking out of an apartment building in South Korea, and he's just sitting on the stoop smoking, and then 2 cat burglars come down off of the out of the out of the window, descending by rope, and they have this fan. And so the guy that's sitting there, he's like, so why'd you take the fan? And so then it shifts, and it goes into like a flashback mode where there's this woman in this apartment who turns on the fan and it oscillates. And the whole thing from there is one take, one long shot. That's this woman in the apartment with the guy that was on the stoop, who's a one-night stand she picked up at a club. And then as she, like, from there, hijinks ensue as the 2 cat burglars come in, and then eventually her roommate comes in. And what it ends up being is it's a nice, like, story about these 2 roommates, and how much they care for each other. It was really cool. It was really clever. It was really well done. I rated it 7 out of 10. And finally, the last one in this block was Unspeakable. I rated it 3.5 out of 10. It was this kind of sloppy depiction of this African American girl in a diner in the Deep South who escaped from the clutches of 2 really cartoonish, over the top, hilljack would-be kidnappers, would-be rapists that were, like, the dialogue was not really that well written. It was just like they were way too over the top. And she escapes from them, and then one of them comes in and comes into the diner and asks her how he escaped, and then it's this really it was a message piece, like it was about racial intolerance and stuff like that, and it was a really forced kind of message, and it's a very important message, and it's something that should be have a good vehicle from which to deliver it, but it didn't do it for me. It was really, really disappointing. I rated it 3.5 out of 10.
Wow.
Now someone else talk.
I think you're up, Mike.
Yeah. Man, there's so much to talk about. Did you guys see Inside Out?
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen a Pixar movie?
I haven't. I've been so busy.
I haven't seen it either.
Tiny, do you want to go see it?
Maybe.
Okay.
Anyway, okay. Well, then I'll talk about something else.
Okay.
Which you guys, I don't think you've seen this either. Did you see Love and Mercy?
No, I didn't even hear about that. What? I don't think I've heard of it.
Okay. Love and Mercy is a movie about the story of Brian Wilson, the kind of the brains behind the Beach Boys.
Oh yeah, Paul Dano's in that one.
Paul Dano is in it, very good,
Nice.
and John Cusack. So Paul Dano plays Brian Wilson circa, oh man, forgive me, I don't know the years. We'll say 1965. All right, during the recording of Pet Sounds. Okay.
Okay.
And then John Cusack plays an older, struggling, mentally challenged. Not mentally challenged. I mean, he's not like, when somebody says mentally challenged and you think something comes to mind, he's not that.
Mm-hmm.
But drugs have kind of warped his mind. He's been through severe depression. Two of his brothers have died. And so one of his brothers has died. His other brother died later. So he's going through kind of a rough time. And so the film cuts back and forth between those two versions of Brian Wilson. And as he is older, his manager, played by Paul Giamatti, is kind of this overprotective, kind of more influential than he should be, manager type. And so I won't say too much about what goes on there, but if you know the story of Brian Wilson, you kind of know what that's all about. And so he meets a love interest, his would-be wife. That's not really a spoiler because if you know anything about him, Melinda Ledbetter is her name, played by Elizabeth Banks, and she is trying to help him break free from the control of Paul Giamatti, John Cusack, or Brian Wilson's manager figure. So those scenes are really great, really compelling, hard to watch at times, but and as much as I like John Cusack, what really did it for me was Paul Dano as the young Brian Wilson, particularly during the scenes where he is writing and recording the instrumentation and the early stuff, pre-vocals to Pet Sounds. If you're usually they say you're either a Beatles fan or a Beach Boys fan, and I've always been a Beatles fan, but this made me want to kind of discover everything there is to be discovered about the Beach Boys, just because the way it showed Brian Wilson's genius, how he would write the parts for every musician, and then he would kind of give the sheet music to every studio musician in there, and then they would kind of just be impressed with what he came up with. And it's cool because you see how he's kind of influenced by the voices in his head, but then also the voices in his head eventually lead to his destruction. And just as a musician, I love movies that show the craft of songwriting and the craft of recording music. And I could have watched 2 more hours of them in the studio recording Pet Sounds. It was fascinating. So, and that paired with just the tragedy of his life and the story later on is really great. If Ex Machina is my movie of the year so far, Love and Mercy is probably number 2.
Wow, it's funny. I know next to nothing about Brian Wilson's story.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah. I'm very intrigued.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know a whole lot either, to be honest with you. But man, it's so good.
Nice.
Yeah, I really want to see it. I'm a big Paul Dano fan.
Mm-hmm.
Not a fan of John Cusack too much, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Nice.
Cool.
Cool.
Please do.
Cool.
Tiny, do you want to...
Yes.
Is it your turn?
Yeah. My last movie I have to bring up is it's called Killer Legends.
Okay. Did you want to bring up Trainwreck at all, by the way?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The movie's called Killer Legends. It's another documentary. It's also on Netflix Instant. And it's not really a follow-up to a previous documentary I had seen and also mentioned on the podcast, but it's sort of in the same vein. It's from the same director and writer. His name is Joshua Zeman. He wrote a documentary. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it back last Shocktober. It's called Cropsy. It's about an urban legend or like a local high tale from Staten Island area where he grew up, about an escaped mental patient who would kidnap children. And then when he was a kid, kids actually did start disappearing. Several kids over several years went missing, and it sort of turned the urban legend true. This other documentary that I just watched called Killer Legends is sort of in the same vein. The filmmaker Joshua Zeman kind of went around and he addressed very famous urban legends from around the country, 4 of them to be precise, and he explored how they became, like, their origins, and he investigated some true crimes that may have inspired those urban legends.
Interesting. And
it really blew me away. There was a ton of stuff that I really just did not know. The first urban legend they reference is there's these 2 kids who are out on Lover's Lane, and they're in the car making out, and the guy wants to go all the way, and a radio broadcast comes over the radio and says there's a man with a hook who escaped from a mental institution or something like that, and he's out and about, and everyone needs to stay in their homes. And of course it spooks the girl, and she hears a noise, and she's like, take me home now, I have to go home now. And he takes her home, and on the way back they stop at a gas station, and as he's putting gas in his car, he looks at his girlfriend's door, and there's a hook on the door, so the guy was about to get him. That's a version of it, but I'm sure most people have heard that before. And it turns out it's actually based on something similar.
Nice.
It was sort of that urban legend was sort of propagandized into basically adults kind of telling kids they need to not have premarital sex in their cars. But it also stems from some, I don't want to spoil it, but it references the movie, which Matt
Urban Legends?
No, it references the movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which is based on actual events. And I just had no idea. It's still an unsolved string of serial killings. From the city of Texarkana in Texas. It's just really interesting. I really appreciate the way that Joshua Zeman makes his movies, and you can tell the guy just loves these spooky stories, and it's just, he has such a passion for it. It's so cool to watch him just go to like a local courthouse or whatever kind of local government building and dig through these old files of these cold cases, and he they didn't like solve a case, but they kind of found this. They basically put a few things together, and basically it's pretty widely believed that this man committed these crimes in this one of the urban legends. I don't want to spoil any more of them, but just the way they put these things together just by looking at these old files, and I don't know, it just has a really cool like Zodiac feel to it.
Nice.
And I don't know, I just really appreciated it. It was a really good movie. And I'm pretty sure, Mike, you said you saw it, right?
I did. I watched it last Shocktober, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. And I watched Cropsy actually, about a month or two ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I found it pretty boring, actually. I
really?
remember thinking that it was because they touch on Cropsy in Killer Legends, right? Killer Legends is essentially like 4 segments, which is kind of cool. It's like it's almost a horror anthology movie.
Yeah.
But it's these 4. It's a documentary anthology, and they're woven together. It's not at all episodic, but
Right.
it takes these four legends and kind of extrapolates them and investigates them. But anyway, Cropsy, I believe, is one of the 4, right?
No,
it's not. Okay.
No, it's
Did they mention it?
They mention it towards the beginning, just sort of. I think it's
the babysitter killer, the Candyman, the car,
and the killer clown.
Okay, yeah,
those
that's
are the
right.
4.
That's right. Yeah, man, I loved it so much. It was just so. Those are the kinds of documentaries I want to see.
Yeah.
I'm not a documentary fan like you are, Tiny, and it's hard. But this, it's cool. They do the same thing that a really good horror movie does, but I think even better because it's real. And kind of like you said, how they don't really come to any conclusions. What I think is cool about it is kind of in all 4 of the segments at the end, they go, so this probably came from this, is essentially the conclusion that they make, which I think is both safe and cool and interesting because it kind of keeps their status as legends, but also says, well, it's most likely this. You know what I mean?
Kind of shed some light on it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still mysterious, but, they're cautious tales for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm gonna have to check both of those out. I'm very curious.
Yeah, cool.
Does that bring it back to me?
I think so.
All right. Well, so continuing on my talks about Indie Film Fest, there was one movie that when I looked through the program on opening night, there was one movie that really, really, really sounded right up my alley, and you guys know me, so you may know why. It was about the movie's called Night Owls, and it's about a guy who has a one-night stand with a woman who turns out to be his boss's the jilted ex-mistress of his boss, and she's taken a bunch of sleeping pills, and he needs to keep her awake all night, lest she dies. And as a fan of one-night movies, this was really, really good. It was. It stars Adam Pally from Happy Endings. We all know him and love him. And it is a really solid comedy premise itself, but it leads into this dramatic kind of study of these two characters who not necessarily define themselves, but who are entranced by this one person in their lives. So basically, let me explain this further. Adam Pally plays a guy who is like an assistant coach for a small college football team organization. And the head coach is his idol and mentor, who he's idolized for his entire life basically, and he made him want to go into coaching, all that stuff. Madeline is the ex-mistress who is in love with the guy with the head coach guy, and what that makes it creates this really interesting dynamic between them where Kevin, played by Adam Pally, he is this kind of really polite, really timid, really straight-laced guy, and he's confronted by this woman who is at first kind of depicted as the crazy bitch lover, but you eventually kind of come to learn that there's more to the relationship than that. And so he's confronted with this very wildly different perspective of the guy he idolizes and patterns his whole life after, while also Madeline is in love with this same guy and is discovering how much how much he is manipulating her and the people around him. And so it's this really fascinating kind of dynamic where they have these conversations about this guy. And I forgot, I kind of buried the lead. They're in the head coach's house. And that's kind of a big part of it. But it's really fascinating. It's a really good character study of two characters who both idolize and idealize this figure in their life who is toxic to those around him. And it was really fun. It was really good. I wrote a review of it on Obsessive Viewer. And also I should mention that I got a chance to see this. I was really excited to see it, but it had 2 screenings during Indy Film Fest. Both screenings I couldn't make it to. Fortunately, the way Indy Film Fest operates is that they, I think like 2 nights into it, they have awards night, which it was on Saturday, where they basically announced the winners of, like, the jury winners of the festival, and they have them separated into different categories. Like there's American Spectrum, which are movies made in America; World Cinema, which were international films; Matter of Fact, which were documentaries; and one other one I can't remember. But American Spectrum was the one that Night Owls fell under, and it won the jury prize for American Spectrum Best of the Festival. So what they do is on Saturday, the last day of the festival, they have Best of the Fest screenings. So basically what they do is they have blocks of the best of each category, and it's paired with the short film and the feature that won that category from the festival. So it was really cool. I was really happy that Night Owls won, so I got the chance to see it, and it deserved it from the limited number of movies I saw. It was really good. And I also want to just talk really briefly about the short film that was played before it. It was the Best of American Spectrum short film. It was called The Answers, and it may be the best thing that I saw at all of Indie Film Fest. Holy shit. It was incredibly moving. It was basically it's a very popular thought experiment on screen. It's basically this guy wakes up and he's surrounded by white light, and it's basically he's died, and now he has a chance to ask any question about his life. And like, I'm getting chills, and like I'm almost on the verge of not really on the verge of tearing up, but I can kind of feel like a little welling up there, because first of all, it's hilarious. He asks the standard questions: how many times did I masturbate? How many times did I have sex? All that stuff. But as he goes along in this, there is like, he asked the question, what's the closest I came to buried treasure? And it just shows him with like him with a hang glider and a woman, and then he sees the woman and he's like, no, skip it. And then as the short film progresses, you learn more about the relationship he had with this woman, and it's so moving, so incredibly moving, because it's a very powerful statement about the fleeting nature of human connection, and it kind of really unravels when he asks out of every person on the planet, who is the woman that was best suited for me, that was my soulmate or whatever, and it shows her, and that kind of leads him to ask more questions, and it's this very powerful, very moving statement about not letting go of things that are near you and all that. It was very moving. I was fortunate that Night Owls was really good, because it would have set the bar ridiculously high, and it would have made for a terrible viewing experience if Night Owls wasn't that good. But The Answers, it was written and directed by Michael Good. And my God, it was the best thing that I saw at Indie Film Fest.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Sweet. I hope that's online at some point. I'd love to see that. Me
too. They have the trailer. I embedded the trailer in my review of Night Owls and The Answers that's on the site. But man, I really hope that I can find it online. It's funny because I was trying to track down the director, and he has a Twitter account, and the one tweet this guy did was this kind kind of deep, kind of humorous tweet from Neil deGrasse Tyson from 2012 about how to live your life and everything like that. It's very fitting that guy went on to direct this short film that moved me so much. So yeah, the answers, it's hopefully it goes online somewhere, but it was really, really good.
Very cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. Mike, you are up?
Yeah, I'll do one more.
Okay.
Just really quick, I want to mention that I'm super excited for Halloween, which is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
August, September, October, so 3 months away, 2.5 months away. Also, did we mention that Halloween has been announced? Halloween Returns?
Yeah, you mentioned.
Was that before I took a break? Okay.
It was it was after. We talked about it on the podcast, but we didn't get your input on it. I don't think, did we?
I can't remember. I thought.
I don't think so.
We might have. Anyway, I'm excited about it. It should be awesome. But the other thing I wanted to mention is I saw a movie called The Den on Netflix. Found footage movie, of course. It's the movie Unfriended came out a couple months ago, and it kind of all took place on the main characters' desktops, their computers, over Skype. And it was okay. It had some effective scares, but overall it was pretty stupid. I feel like The Den is a better version of that. Kind of the same idea. We get this story based on this woman's desktop camera. And so there's really not a lot to say except that some scary things start to happen. She's doing this. Do you remember Chat Roulette, which was kind of popular for about a month, 4 years ago? So she's doing this experiment with her school, and she wants to kind of just do chat roulette all day long. And kind of document who she meets. And so one of the people she meets, the video is just a stream of some scary stuff. And then so scary stuff starts to happen to her. And it was just really good, unexpected scares and kind of a treat, a diamond in the rough of some really crappy Netflix horror movies.
Nice. So it's better than Unfriended?
Yeah, I'd say better than Unfriended, yeah.
Nice. I didn't get a chance to see Unfriended, but the premise kind of intrigued me, so I might have to check out The Den then.
Do it.
Interesting. All right, so I'll wrap us up and we can finish up here. The last movie of Indie Film Fest that I saw was the closing night film, which was Wildlike. This movie starring Bruce Greenwood and this young actress from, I think she's English. Named Ella Purnell. Basically, and Tiny saw this with me. It's the story of this woman or this girl who, after the death of her father, is sent to Alaska, to Juneau, Alaska, to live with her uncle, while her mother they're not really clear, but it's kind of seems like she's dealing with some mental health issues as a result of the loss of the girl's father. So she's at her uncle's house in Juneau, Alaska, and then I won't give away what happens because it's a pretty it's a rough movie, but something happens that makes it clear that she is not safe living in that house. So, and it's really disturbing, really upsetting to see it, and it's not graphic or anything. It was really made me uneasy. So the whole movie is that she goes on the run. She leaves her uncle's house and goes on the run, and then meets up with Bruce Greenwood, who is this guy who is backpacking across Alaska, the Alaskan wilderness. He reluctantly becomes the one positive force in her life as she works through this trauma that she went through, and I really enjoyed the movie. I thought that it was a really strong, focused depiction of what this girl went through and how she dealt with the trauma she went through. It felt disturbingly realistic, and there are scenes where she communicates with her uncle while she's on the run, and the uncle's played by Brian Garrity, who he was in The Hurt Locker. And he was in a few episodes a season of Boardwalk Empire, and he was the co-pilot in Flight, but he's popped up here and there. But man, his performance, like he's more credit maybe due to the screenplay, but the delivery of the lines of like this kind of it just felt really. And I'll steer clear of spoilers, but it felt very authentic to the character that he was written as. It's like he's where they could have made him a monster. They made him a monster, but it's a more nuanced. It's more chilling when it's a nuanced and focused depiction of him instead of making him like a more aggressive threat, if that makes sense.
He didn't. He was the definition of a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah. He was very emotionally manipulative and very disturbing.
Which was an interesting thing to see. I mentioned this to Matt. An interesting thing to see from Brian Garrity, because he's always a very protagonistic and kind of a good guy character.
Kind of a Boy Scout guy.
Boy Scout. There you go. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, that's kind of how he feels throughout most of his performances, but this was just this was the polar opposite of that.
Yeah. And the movie overall was really good. I really enjoyed it. I loved the interplay between Bruce Greenwood and this young actress, but the ending kind of fell apart for me a little bit. It was kind of it left on a note that
was ambiguous.
It was, I wrote in my review that I posted at episodesviewer.com that it was like 2 feet away from ambiguous. I didn't say that in the review, but it was basically like it felt less like it was an ambiguous ending and more like it was an incomplete thought. And that maybe it felt like it was kind of going towards something like a big statement about these characters or something like that, but then it ended like maybe 30, 40 seconds too soon. And it didn't really have an effect on me because I felt like there was putting in these characters on a journey that would lead to a satisfying conclusion. I couldn't really make sense of how they ended it. But overall it was really good, really strong performances and really beautiful, beautiful, views of Alaska. It was gorgeous.
They captured the setting really well.
Yeah.
Without shoving it in your face all the time.
It was filmed on location, so it's like it was basically it was just
from Denali National Park.
Yeah, it was just it was shot just beautifully.
I echo all that. I just love Bruce Greenwood so much.
Me too.
He can do anything. I mean, he's just one of those, such a versatile actor. And I was blown away by Ella Purnell, the young girl who was in this. She's wise beyond her years, I think.
Yeah.
I really liked it a lot.
Yeah. It was a really good movie. I rated it 7.0 out of 10, which may be a little bit of a disservice to it, but
I'd probably give it a 7.5 maybe.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, so if it's called Wildlike, if it's in your area or runs on Netflix or something like that, definitely check it out. I think they're trying to get I think it's going to play in theaters eventually, at least a limited run. So if it's in your area, check it out.
Yep.
Yeah, does that about do it? Or Tiny, do you want to just say some brief things about the after party, the closing night thing? How'd you feel about Film Fest?
It was great. Yeah, the after party was really cool. I mean, it was an example or like a gesture about how much these people who run this festival really care about local film and like independent film, and they just love the art of it. That it was just cool that they actually had an after party and there was food there and you got a free drink and they have these really cool local sponsors. And the people there were pretty friendly and wanted to talk to you about stuff. So
yeah, that's definitely what struck me. Like I mentioned this last week when talking about sleeping with other people, but like next year for sure, 100%. I'm taking time off of work. I'm getting an all access pass and I'm covering as much as possible with it, and I'm really excited about it even now. But I mentioned this in my closing thoughts, and this will be the last thing we talk about here, unless Mikey, if you have something. But
I do not.
Okay. But I like it's funny because I read the book Film Critic by Laramie Legal like late last year. And something that really struck me about it is, I mean, like I don't view us as professional film critics at all. Like the kind of the big, one of the big things about Obsessive Viewer, and from my perspective, the reason I started the blog and what I want to impart on the podcast and what we do at Obsessive Viewer is that we're giving our perspective on movies, and it's not necessarily, we're not professional critics or anything like that, but the big thing about Obsessive Viewer is that it's how we feel about movies and how we feel about TV shows and how our personal experiences inform our opinions of these things. And with Indie Film Fest, like, it was so much fun to pretend I was a professional film critic. So it was just really fun, a really unique experience. I've never done anything like it before. I basically went to as many screenings as I could and could afford, and then wrote up reviews for everything I saw, and it was just a blast. And when I read Film Critic, one thing that struck me about it was that how he was just really, really negative about basically his career. And like, we all do this at the hobby level, and like he has a big passage about how Sundance is just a grueling experience because he has to go watch all these things and write about it and all that stuff, and it's a really draining experience.
Who is this?
His name's Laramie Legal. He writes for some, I don't know if it's an online publication or if a newspaper or what. I can't really remember, but he was on /Filmcast, a guest spot every now and then, and that's how I found it. But so like, he just had a lot of negative things. I wrote a review of the book on Obsessive Book Nerd, and I kind of outlined my problems with it. But he was very negative. He had a lot of negative things about it, and it was very disheartening to read it, because, like I said, I do this at the hobby level. We do this at the hobby level, and maybe someday I would want to try to do something like, at least like up it to like the freelance level or whatever, do like guest reviews and stuff on other sites and stuff like that, and try to do something out of it. But that was just such a bummer. To read how negative he was on it, and then to go from that, having that kind of in the back of my mind a little bit. Now, granted, covering Sundance Film Festival for real publication is wildly different from going to a handful of screenings at Indie Film Fest and writing something on a personal, like a self-imposed deadline for a website that I created and run.
Right. Right.
Wildly different, but I had such a blast experiencing this and kind of dipping my toes into this different arena of film critiquing, I guess, or writing. And it was a fun challenge for myself, because I'm kind of known for making very big, from having very big ideas and very big thoughts for what we can do and what I can do and all that stuff and all that. And like to just thinking like, okay, I'm going to cover this as much as I can, and then following through on that and doing that, much to the chagrin of my bank account. But to do that was just a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to doing it more next year. And then also Heartland Film Festival is coming up in October, so hopefully I'll be able to do something like that for that.
Cool.
The end.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So that about does it for us then, correct?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is, yeah. Yes. We covered a lot of ground. Mike, love having you back for the next 34, 48, 130 episodes.
It was fun to be back. This is fun.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like riding a bike. The bike leaves and then comes back months later. I don't know. That analogy ran away from me. But anyway, so of course we'll throw it to the pre-recorded outro, and then check out, I think next week I'm going to throw the pilot episode of Anthology, my solo side project podcast that discusses or dives into sci-fi storytelling during television's golden age. I'm going to throw that on the feed here next week, and we'll, hopefully if you like it, you'll subscribe to it on its feed, which I'll start up next week. For more information on that, go to anthologypod.com. Basically, I'm taking 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone every episode of the podcast and discussing them and giving background on my feelings on it and all that, and kind of some trivia too. I'm looking forward to it. It's another one of those challenges that I'm in way over my head about. So, hopefully I can do it.
Nice.
Yeah. That about does it for us then. Anything else you guys need to say?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Jinx.
Join the Obsessive Viewer podcast on October 16th, 2015 at the Irving Theater in Indianapolis for The Obsessive Viewer Presents Shocktober in Irvington Part 2. It's a one-night event screening of short horror films from local artists J.P. Leck and Snapshot Productions. There will be giveaways, raffles, interviews with the filmmakers, and so much more. All proceeds will go directly to the Irvington Historical Society. Go to shocktoberinirvington.com for more details. And prepare to be shocked.
Thank you for listening to The Obsessive Viewer, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find more of our episodes at ovpodcast.com, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast app. The Obsessive Viewer's theme song is An Eclipse of Events and is provided by Wildlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. You can find that and more great music from them on iTunes and like their Facebook page at facebook.com/loudlikemusic. Any and all feedback on the podcast is encouraged. You can email the hosts individually at Matt, Tiny, or Mike at obsessiveviewer.com or send an email to the podcast in general at podcast@obsessiveviewer.com. Check out the Obsessive Viewer blog at obsessiveviewer.com, where we post movie and TV reviews and the occasional editorial about the business of entertainment. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer and follow us on Twitter at obsessiveviewer, at obsessivetiny, and at IamMikeWhite. If you want more obsessive content in your life, check out our sister site, obsessivebooknerd.com, for book reviews, author spotlights, and a general celebration of reading. Finally, if you're philosophically curious, check out Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, which explores the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts. You can find that at thesecularperspective.com and subscribe to the podcast on the podcatcher of your choice. Again, thank you so much for listening. We love you. Be excellent to each other.